Growing ginger at home is one of the smartest decisions you can make for your kitchen and your wallet. Fresh ginger costs $3 to $5 per pound at the store, but a single piece of ginger root planted in a container can produce 5 to 10 pounds of fresh, organic ginger in just 8 to 10 months. That's a return of $15 to $50 from one small investment. But here's the thing most gardeners get wrong. They end up with tall, beautiful leaves and barely any usable root underground. Sound familiar? Today, I'm walking you through the complete process of growing ginger in containers, from selecting the right root to harvesting massive, flavorful rhizomes that'll keep your kitchen stocked for months. We're covering everything you need to know, and if you stick around until the end, I'll share a bonus tip that can double your harvest without using any extra space. Here's what makes container-grown ginger so perfect for home gardeners. Ginger is a tropical plant that naturally grows as an understory crop in warm, humid forests. That means it actually prefers the controlled environment that containers provide. You get to manage the soil quality, moisture levels, and temperature in ways you simply can't with in-ground planting. The ginger we eat isn't actually a root. It's a rhizome, which is an underground stem that grows horizontally and stores nutrients. When you plant ginger in a container, those rhizomes spread out just beneath the soil surface, making them incredibly easy to harvest without damaging the plant. Whether you're in a cold climate and need to bring your ginger indoors during winter, or you're in a warm zone and can keep it outside year-round, containers give you complete flexibility. And the best part? You don't need a big yard or even a garden bed. A sunny balcony, patio, or even a bright windowsill works perfectly. But here's what most gardening guides won't tell you. The difference between getting a handful of ginger and getting a massive harvest comes down to just 5 critical factors that most people completely overlook. Because the truth is, growing ginger isn't about having the perfect climate or spending a fortune on supplies. It's about understanding exactly what the plant needs at each stage of growth and giving it those specific conditions. Get these 5 things right, and you'll harvest more ginger than you ever thought possible from a single container. Let me show you exactly how to do it. The first step to a huge harvest starts before you even fill a pot with soil. You need to choose the right planting material, and this is where most people make their first mistake. Head to your local grocery store or garden center and look for organic ginger roots. Why organic? Because conventional ginger is often treated with growth inhibitors to prevent it from sprouting during shipping and storage. Those chemicals will stop your ginger from growing, and you'll be left wondering why nothing's happening. Look for pieces that are plump, firm, and have multiple visible eyes or buds. Those little bumps are where new shoots will emerge. The more eyes you have, the more shoots you'll get, and the bigger your harvest will be. Avoid anything that looks dried out, moldy, or has soft spots. Once you've got your ginger, soak it in room temperature water for 2 to 4 hours. This rehydrates the tissue and wakes up those dormant buds, giving them a head start on sprouting. If your ginger root is large, you can cut it into smaller sections. Each piece should have at least 1 or 2 healthy eyes. After cutting, let the pieces sit out for 24 hours so the cut ends can dry and form a protective layer. This prevents rot once they're planted. Now let's talk containers. This is critical. Ginger grows horizontally, spreading out just beneath the soil surface. That means you need a wide, shallow container rather than a deep, narrow one. Aim for a pot that's at least 12 to 18 inches wide and 10 to 12 inches deep. The wider the better, because it gives those rhizomes room to expand. Make absolutely sure your container has multiple drainage holes in the bottom. Ginger needs consistent moisture, but it cannot sit in waterlogged soil. Without proper drainage, the rhizomes will rot, and you'll lose everything. One of my favorite options is fabric grow bags. They're breathable, prevent water from pooling, and make harvesting incredibly easy. You can literally tip the bag over and dump out perfect ginger without digging. The second factor that determines your harvest size is soil quality. Ginger is a heavy feeder that needs loose, well-draining soil rich in organic matter. If your soil is too dense or compacted, the rhizomes can't expand properly, and you'll end up with small, stunted pieces. Here's the mix I use and recommend. Start with a high-quality potting mix as your base. Then add about 30% compost for nutrients and 20% perlite or coarse sand for drainage. This creates a fluffy, airy texture that holds moisture without becoming soggy. Ginger prefers slightly acidic soil with a pH between 6.0 and 6.5. If you're not sure about your soil's pH, pick up a simple test kit from any garden center. It takes 2 minutes and can save you months of frustration. When you fill your container, don't pack the soil down. You want it loose and fluffy so the rhizomes can spread easily. Fill the pot about 2/3 full initially. We'll add more soil later as the plant grows, which is a technique called hilling that I'll explain in the bonus tip. Place your ginger pieces on the soil surface with the eyes or buds facing up. Space them about 6 to 8 inches apart if you're planting multiple pieces in one container. Then cover them with about 1 to 2 inches of soil. Don't bury them too deep. Ginger rhizomes grow close to the surface, and deep planting can delay sprouting or cause rot. Water thoroughly after planting until you see moisture draining from the bottom of the pot. Then place the container in a warm spot and keep the soil consistently moist but not soaking wet. The third critical factor is getting the light and temperature conditions right. Ginger is a tropical plant, but it doesn't want harsh direct sunlight beating down on it all day. In nature, it grows under the canopy of taller plants where it gets bright, filtered light. Aim for a spot that gets 4 to 6 hours of gentle morning sun or bright indirect light throughout the day. A location with morning sun and afternoon shade is perfect. If you're growing indoors, place your container near a bright window with sheer curtains, or use a grow light positioned about 12 inches above the plant. Temperature is just as important as light. Ginger thrives in warm conditions between 70 and 85 Fahrenheit during the day. It can tolerate slightly cooler nights, but anything below 50 will slow growth dramatically or even damage the plant. If you live in a climate with cold winters, plan to bring your containers indoors once nighttime temperatures start dropping below 50 °C. Place them in a warm, bright room, and they'll continue growing through the winter months. Ginger also loves humidity. If you're growing indoors or in a dry climate, increase humidity by placing the container on a tray filled with pebbles and water, making sure the pot sits above the water line, not in it. You can also mist the leaves occasionally, but don't overdo it. Too much moisture on the foliage can invite fungal problems. The fourth factor that separates small harvests from huge ones is consistent watering and proper feeding. Ginger needs steady moisture throughout its growing season, but the key word here is steady, not soggy. Water when the top inch of soil feels dry to the touch. Stick your finger down into the soil near the edge of the pot. If it feels damp an inch down, wait another day. If it's dry, water deeply until you see moisture draining from the bottom. One of the best tricks for maintaining consistent moisture is adding a 1 to 2 inch layer of organic mulch on top of the soil. Shredded leaves, straw, or coconut coir work beautifully. Mulch slows evaporation, keeps the soil temperature stable, and prevents the surface from crusting over. If you see the leaves starting to curl or droop, that's a sign the plant needs water. But don't panic and flood it. Just water thoroughly, and the leaves should perk up within a few hours. Now let's talk feeding. Ginger is a heavy feeder, especially once it starts actively growing. About 4 to 6 weeks after planting, once you see shoots emerging, start feeding with a balanced liquid fertilizer. Look for something with an NPK ratio around 5 to 5.5 or 10 to 10. Feed every 2 to 3 weeks during the growing season, using half the recommended strength. It's better to feed lightly and often than to hit the plant with a heavy dose all at once. Too much nitrogen will give you lots of leaves but small rhizomes, which is the opposite of what we want. Another option is to top dress with compost every 4 to 6 weeks. Just sprinkle a thin layer of well-aged compost around the base of the plant and gently work it into the top inch of soil. This provides a slow, steady release of nutrients without the risk of burning the roots. The fifth and final factor is patience. This is where a lot of gardeners get anxious and make mistakes. Ginger takes time. From planting to full maturity, you're looking at 8 to 10 months. That's a long growing season, and there's no way to rush it. In the first 2 to 4 weeks after planting, you'll see green shoots poking up through the soil. This is exciting, but don't expect much to happen underground yet. For the first few months, the plant is focused on building a strong canopy of leaves. Those leaves are like solar panels, collecting energy that will eventually be stored in the rhizomes. Around month 4 to 6, the plant will be at its peak. Tall, lush green leaves, and that's when the rhizomes really start to bulk up underground. This is the phase where proper watering and feeding make the biggest difference. The key sign that your ginger is ready to harvest is when the leaves start to turn yellow and die back naturally. This usually happens in late fall or early winter, depending on when you planted. The plant is telling you it's done growing and it's time to harvest. If you want baby ginger, which is milder and more tender, you can start harvesting small pieces after about 4 to 5 months. Just carefully dig around the edge of the container, feel for a rhizome, and cut off a small section without disturbing the main plant. It'll keep growing and producing. For a full harvest, wait until the leaves have yellowed. Then stop watering for about a week to let the soil dry out slightly. This makes harvesting easier and helps the ginger cure. Tip the container over or carefully dig with your hands and lift out the entire clump of rhizomes. Brush off the excess soil, but don't wash the ginger yet. Let it cure in a cool, dry spot for a few days. This toughens the skin and improves storage life. Once cured, you can store fresh ginger in the refrigerator for several weeks, or freeze it for months. Now here's the bonus tip I promised that can literally double your harvest. It's called hilling, and it's one of the simplest techniques that makes a massive difference. Remember how I said to only fill your container 2/3 full at the beginning? Here's why. As your ginger plant grows and new shoots emerge, you're going to gradually add more soil around the base of those shoots. Every 2 to 3 weeks, add about an inch of fresh potting mix or compost around the stems, covering any exposed rhizomes. This does 2 things. First, it protects the developing rhizomes from sunlight, which can cause them to turn green and develop a bitter taste. Second, and this is the key, it creates more space for new rhizomes to form. Ginger will continue producing new growth in that fresh layer of soil, essentially giving you a second tier of harvest. By the time you harvest, you'll have rhizomes growing at multiple levels throughout the container instead of just one shallow layer at the bottom. That's how you go from a modest harvest to a truly huge one. Just make sure not to bury the green shoots themselves. You're adding soil around the base, not covering the leaves. And keep the new soil loose and fluffy so the rhizomes can expand easily. So let's recap the 5 critical factors for growing massive ginger harvests in containers. Number 1. Choose fresh, organic ginger with multiple eyes and plant it in a wide, shallow container with excellent drainage. Number 2. Use loose, well-draining soil rich in organic matter with a slightly acidic pH. Number 3. Provide bright, filtered light and keep temperatures between 70 and 85 degrees. Number 4. Water consistently to keep soil evenly moist and feed every 2 to 3 weeks with a balanced fertilizer. And number 5, be patient. Wait 8 to 10 months for full maturity and harvest when the leaves turn yellow. And don't forget that bonus tip. Hill up fresh soil around the base of your plants every few weeks to create more space for rhizomes to develop and double your harvest. Growing ginger at home is one of the most rewarding crops you can plant. It's low maintenance, incredibly productive, and saves you a fortune at the grocery store. Plus, the flavor of fresh, homegrown ginger is miles ahead of anything you'll buy in a store. If you found this helpful, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and check out our other videos on growing a better garden. Thanks for watching and happy growing.